China and Taiwan is one of the most significant global conflicts in the world today, and I've heard many different perspectives and ideas on the matter, so I decided to travel to Taipei myself and ask a few very important questions. But before we get to that, I want to explain all of the relevant historical context so that you're fully in the know about this. But if you do want to go straight to the interviews, then skip to this time frame. The history of Taiwan goes back tens of thousands of years, but for the sake of time and for the sake of the video, we'll start in 1683, where after a rather brief colonial rule by the Dutch, Taiwan came under the rule of the Qing dynasty, and in the years that followed, many Chinese would migrate to Taiwan. This rule lasted until 1895, when the Qing dynasty lost the First Sino-Japanese War and Taiwan had to be given away to the Japanese. A few decades later though, after Japan's defeat at the Second World War, Taiwan was once again up for grabs and China reclaimed it, where it became a part of the Republic of China, or the ROC, which had been established in 1912. The ROC was ruled by a man named Chiang Kai-shek, who was the leader of a party called the Kuomintang, or the KMT. And from 1927 until 1949, the Chinese Civil War was fought between Chiang Kai-shek's KMT and a guy named Mao Zedong's Communist Red Army. Mao would eventually win this conflict and go on to establish the People's Republic of China, or the PRC, with Beijing as the capital. Chiang Kai-shek and the KMT would flee to Taiwan, along with 1.5 million people and as many resources as they could bring with them, setting up the new capital city in Taipei, and a battle for international legitimacy would ensue, with international powers at the time recognizing the Republic of China, or Taiwan, which is the informal name, as the only China. This was until 1971. If you've watched my other videos, you'll know that this is during Nixon's reign, which was the same year that the US went off the gold standard and the year that the World Economic Forum was created. What a year that was, but I digress. At this time, Mao's China was strategically very important for the US in their fight against the USSR. So this led to the United Nations recognizing Beijing as the real China. In 1975, Chiang Kai-shek, the leader of the KMT, died, and in 1976, Mao Zedong would follow. And this led to relations and economic ties between the countries improving. In 1992, there was a meeting in Hong Kong where representatives from Taiwan and China would meet and make a verbal agreement that there is one China, which they would both interpret as they please, and the two would work together towards a peaceful reunification. This meeting is commonly referred to as the 1992 Consensus. And this is when real economic cooperation between the two would begin, and the relationship between the two sides would start to strengthen. In 1992, the trade volume across the strait was $7.4 billion. In 1993, just 1 year later, it was $14.4 billion. And in the year 2021, that number became $320 billion. But at the same time that this was happening, cultural differences were becoming more and more pronounced, with people from Taiwan now starting to refer to themselves as Taiwanese and not Chinese. In May 2000, the Taiwanese elected Chen Shu-bian, a president from the Democratic People's Party and that openly backed Taiwanese independence.
我们不是中华人民共和国的一省，或者它的一部分。
Which led to China passing an anti-secession law in 2005. The anti-secession law, a domestic law unilaterally enacted by China, claims that Taiwan is a part of China and suggests that non-peaceful means may be arbitrarily employed by China to achieve unification. In 2013, Xi Jinping came into power in China, and his plan was clear: to restore the historical glory of China and make them a superpower by the year 2049. Why this year? Well, this is the 100-year anniversary of when China became the People's Republic of China. And a major part of Xi's plan is to reunify China and Taiwan. And his idea of this was one country, two systems, which understandably many of the Taiwanese people weren't really buying. And in 2014, tens of thousands of people, mostly students, gathered in front of the Taiwanese parliament to protest trade agreements with China. This was the first open protest against China and the start of the Sunflower Movement, which was a pivotal event in Taiwan's recent political history and in their relations with mainland China. In 2015, the leaders of Taiwan and China met and relations seemed to be strong. That was until 2016, when Taiwan elected a lady named Tsai Ing-wen, who campaigned on the ideas of transparency, Taiwanese independence, and was very critical of China. And in 2020, she was re-elected with a record 8.2 million votes. Now, obviously, This is not good for Xi's plan of peaceful reunification and has led to increasing tensions. China has, over the past few years, fired missiles towards Taiwan, conducted large-scale air and sea exercises, cyber attacks, and more. And in August 2022, US Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi arrived on the shores of Taiwan and declared that she is there to help defend democracy.
With the Taiwan Relations Act, America made a bedrock promise to always stand with Taiwan.
This led to outrage from mainland China, and military exercises would start just hours after her departure. At this moment in history, tensions seem to be higher than ever before, with reports happening seemingly weekly about Chinese military drills in the area and rhetoric, as well as things like Xi's relationship with Putin, whose war in Ukraine and the retaliation from the rest of the world is something that Xi is going to be watching very, very closely. So, Taiwan is a flourishing democracy with its own parliament, its own ministry, national and foreign policy, and defense force. But as far as Beijing are concerned, they are a renegade province. And as it stands, only 13 countries in the world recognize Taiwan as an independent country. Those countries are Belize, Guatemala, Haiti, Paraguay, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Nauru, Palau and Tuvalu. Not exactly the most intimidating coalition of nations that has ever been put together. So, with all of that in mind, I had a lot of questions for the people of Taiwan. Let's find out what they had to say. Okay, so what's your name?
Annie.
Brighton, Homer. My name is Hank.
Hank.
Yes.
It's a good American name, Hank.
Okay.
Li Jierui.
Li Jierui.
Yes. My name is May.
And you're a YouTuber as well. How long have you been doing YouTube for?
It's nearly around 4 years. I'm doing fitness and also try to promote a healthy lifestyle on YouTube.
Just feels tight.
Do you think that China will try and reunify or take Taiwan as their own?
Oh, I think that's a really big issue because it's being discussed for decades. So for me, I feel it's going to happen, but we never know what is going to happen.
Yes.
Yeah, because for my generation, this kind of news keep going on. So for me, I don't really feel like it's going to happen soon, but it might happen in the future, but we really don't know when it's going to happen.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that China will try and take Taiwan?
Yes.
Yes. You think that's going to happen? Yeah. So you don't like the thought of living under the Chinese government?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
If both parties can follow some rules or control themselves, I think not seriously have to be like the Western media said, a war or something. Yeah, that's my opinion.
So you're saying that you think that the parties in China and the parties in Taiwan need to be responsible so that there's no war?
Yeah.
We just feel like maybe it's just a sooner or later problem. And I just feel very happy that a lot of countries that are quite support the democratic countries. In terms of this topic, I feel like, we are a little bit worried about it. And it might happen in the future, but we are not afraid.
Guys, if you enjoy this content and if you would like to see more of this, and if you would like to see me get boots on the ground in many different places around the world, then consider supporting the channel at Locals. I also post lots of exclusive content on there and I'm growing quite the community. So any support that you could give would be greatly appreciated. If not, you can just chuck a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave me a comment. Back to the clips.
I don't think we got time to think about it. Yeah, business. We are busy and we have lots of things to do. Yeah, we just do what we have to do.
And how do you feel about the Chinese people? Do you feel connected to the Chinese people at all, or do you feel like family with the Chinese people, or not really?
Not really. No? No, we're not close at all.
Do you think that Taiwan is a part of China?
Yes, I believe that.
Do you think that Taiwan is a part of China?
Yes, it's part of China.
No, I don't really think so because I believe that our culture is the big Chinese culture, but for the history thing and all the human, we are really different culture-wise. So I don't feel like we are part of China.
Okay.
Of course, the Aborigines, they are real Taiwanese. but most, I would say maybe 90%, the ancestors they moved from China to Taiwan.
So did your parents move after the Civil War?
Yeah,
Yeah.
after the Civil War,
Yeah.
yes.
So would you say that your parents were more or less attached to China than you?
In my generation, we still have very, how to say, close to there. Sure, my parents and my grandparents will be much closer than us.
Guys, there's a bit of reassurance just to let you know. Sorry, things are really chaotic around here. If anything does go down, the Taiwanese have got it covered. As you can see, we've got the military out in force. No need for the US to get involved. Do you feel connected to the Chinese people and the Chinese culture?
A little bit, like when we were young, we also learned about the
Confucius.
Yeah, the Confucius, but we don't feel like we are Chinese. It's very hard to
when
explain.
you think about your own culture and the
Yeah.
history of your culture, do you think about the many Chinese dynasties that have happened for thousands and thousands of years and feel like that is a part of your history and your culture? Or do you feel like Taiwan's more of a new culture that doesn't take that into account?
It's definitely part of our history, but we have grown very differently.
And what do you think are the key differences between Taiwan and China?
The communists and our systems here, they are very different. Yeah, maybe if they can just accept what we are looking for, like we like free, we want YouTube, we like Facebook, something. Yeah, if they can not control so much. If they still control so much, it won't work.
I have some friends in China, and they're also Chinese, or like friend in Taiwan. They are working in China. They have a lot of things to say, but they know their government won't allow them to say, and they might have some danger if they speak out their voice.
The government system, we are more, we choose our leader and China don't. That's it.
Yeah. So do you think that democracy is the big difference between China and Taiwan?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And how would you feel about if say tomorrow that the Chinese were to claim Taiwan, how would you feel about living under the CCP?
Back in students, I wasn't worried about. But the more I know about the news, the more like I know about what Chinese government are doing right now, it does like let me feel like, oh, I'm worried if like this really happened, because I will worry about my family, my job, like the whole communist system, the society. Like we don't have freedom to speak what we want. Like every movement we are doing, like it's like controlled by the government. So that does like affect.
Do you have freedom in Taiwan? Do you feel like you're free?
Yeah, we're so free here in here. Yes.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Taiwanese
we
people
are
are free.
pretty free. Yeah.
Do you have freedom in Taiwan? Do you feel like you are free?
Yes, I am free.
Yeah, I feel like we are very grateful for our freedom because we fought for it. And we can just speak whatever we want, and we can criticize our government, our presidents, and I feel like that's the thing that we have to cherish.
So, it goes without saying that this is a very, very complicated situation, with mainland China operating under the rule of the Chinese Communist Party and Taiwan a free democracy. But what I got from this was that the people of Taiwan don't actually have any animus towards the Chinese people, and in many cases they actually felt quite a kinship towards them. However, they are acutely aware of the differences between how they are governed and how the CCP governs their people. And for that reason, they want to be left alone. They don't hate the Chinese people or the government for that matter, but they do not want to be under their rule. But also, it's not difficult to see the Chinese perspective. They believe that Taiwan is a part of China because of the aforementioned historical context and their interpretation of the 1992 consensus, but also because most of the world doesn't actually recognize Taiwan as an independent country. So when the Chinese say that Taiwan is a part of China, that is actually technically a fact. Either way though, and however you interpret this situation, it appears as though a conflict is imminent and likely to happen before the end of the decade. And I personally, after visiting Taiwan and speaking to the people, don't see any way in which a peaceful reunification is possible, because it is not the will of the people, and it is certainly not the will of the current government. And based on recent election results, I don't see a pro-China government being democratically elected anytime soon. Furthermore, the US has been steadfast in their condemnation of a forceful Chinese invasion, and has thus vowed to intervene if any such event were to occur. So let me know your thoughts below, guys. Really looking forward to reading your comments about this one. And if you guys do want to stay in contact with me in case I do get cancelled, which is looking more and more likely by the day, then make sure to find me on Instagram, sign up to my email list where I send out regular emails, join me on Locals or any of my other platforms. If you guys want to watch another video, click right here. Until next time, I'm Jake. This is RattlesnakeTV, keeping you armed and dangerous.